You are listening to Pocketful of Diamonds, Book 7 of the Nadia Wolf series, written by Nicolette Pierce. Copyright 2016. Audio copyright 2025 by Pierced Heart Publishing. Digitally narrated with full cast of voices. Chapter 2. After 3 days of traveling, Ian finally arrived in the tiny village of Najamba. He parked the jeep next to the metal-roofed office and went straight to work. There was much to be done. He had spent way too much time searching for Gwen, and now he had to focus on the mine. For hours he checked and then rechecked the production notes and the accounts only to discover what he had surmised months ago. The mine was in financial ruin. Ian Miller slammed his fist on the desk and then buried his face in his hands. It was no use. Everything he'd worked so hard for was gone. The office door swung open, then snapped shut.
Any luck?
"No, Gerard," Ian muttered. "I haven't had luck in a long time."
Finally.
Ian looked up. Finally? Gerard smiled and crossed the room, making himself overly comfortable on the couch. It was one of the only things that had survived the riots just over 6 months ago, and now he wished it hadn't.
What a black look. You knew your luck would run out eventually.
"You forget. If I'm out of money, there won't be a paycheck for you." Gerard shrugged.
You'll figure out something. You always do. Which is why I'm still here.
Not this time. He hated to throw in the proverbial towel, but the situation in Sierra Leone was deteriorating. He wouldn't be able to run the mine for much longer without the government or rebels seizing it. Not that he'd be able to anyway. The mine hadn't been producing like it used to. His land had never been rich like some of the mines near him, but what he lacked in quantity, he made up for in quality. Large showcase diamonds could be found deep in the wet muck that lined the muddy river. There was still a chance they'd find more, but time was running out. The rebels had stolen everything of value and destroyed the rest. The one thing they didn't find was his last stash of diamonds that he kept on him at all times. It'd keep them solvent until he was able to sell his house or luck returned. He'd rather flush the stones down the toilet than see them in the wrong hands. Blood diamonds would not come from his land.
Don't worry. I'm sure your pretty little thief will come back.
Ian glared at Gerard. He knew about Ian's hunt for Gwen. It was impossible to evade his questioning. There were only so many excuses Ian could think up, and the one that weighed heavily on his soul would not be told, not to anyone. That David and Grayson knew about it was bad enough. "She's not my pretty little thief," Ian gritted. "I'm done with her." Gerard smiled.
You chased her around the world for 6 months. She'll be back. Girls don't like it when you ignore them.
"What makes you think she'd be stupid enough to come back?" Gerard kicked his feet up on the makeshift coffee table.
3rd time's a charm.
"Get out."
Still sore?
Gerard stood and shoved his hands into his dusty pockets.
For what it's worth, I don't think it was personal to her. It was just business.
Ian glared. "It was personal to me."
Don't get all twisted up over one thief. You have a village that adores you. It's obnoxious, by the way. I'm surprised they haven't already erected a statue in your honor.
"Don't be absurd," Ian muttered. "And Gwen stole not once but twice from me. The first time was my own stupid mistake, and I didn't get upset. But then she went too far."
You and your brother are still alive. Everyone is safe. If anything, I think the experience brought you back together.
"Those diamonds were priceless. I could have finally built a hospital." Gerard rolled his eyes.
You already built a school, a library, and a clinic. And guess what? It's all been destroyed. Sierra Leone cannot be saved by one man, no matter how many diamonds he has.
Ian sat back, avoiding Gerard's blue gaze. They had been tight friends ever since Ian hired him to oversee the mine. The man had a canine nose for sniffing out the best spots to dig. But now even Gerard couldn't help him. They were at the limit of his property. The village that depended on him would now be left in the hands of a failing government and angry rebels locked in a deadly power struggle. "I'll put my house up for sale," Ian said. Gerard frowned.
Who would want that dilapidated shack?
"Not the house here, the one in the U.S.
But that's your retirement.
It stores a few knickknacks and nothing more." Ian shrugged. "It's not like I'm ready to retire anyway." After all, he just joined the 30-something crowd recently. Gerard crossed his arms. Muscles from long, hard days of mining bunched.
It's a bad idea. If you have to sell the house, then use it to invest in something else. Don't waste your money here.
It was a conversation they'd circled many times before. Ian shoved back from the desk. "I need to walk.
Bring the gun.
I'm not leaving the property."
Bring the gun, or I'll have one of the men go with you.
Ian propped his hands on his hips, but then thought better of arguing with Gerard. Gerard would have made the point that his land was already raided once. There was a good chance it would be again. But more than that, there was the wildlife. More than once he'd come face to face with an animal that was higher on the food chain than he was. But nothing scared him more than the snakes. Ian took the shotgun from the wall and slung it over his shoulder. On the way out, he snatched his weathered cowboy hat off the hook. He would not turn his back on Najamba. He'd finally found something worth fighting for, and he wouldn't let the people down. The sun settled low, cracking the sky with oranges and pinks, when Ian decided to head back home. Home. He had wandered from continent to continent and had never once been drawn to a place longer than a few months. Normally, he left before visas became an issue. But then he arrived here, his account nearly depleted, and he knew he had found something special. The beauty was barely visible on the outside. Between the poverty, Ebola outbreaks, and wars, it was beat up and tired. But if you looked a little deeper, polished a little longer, the beauty shone with a clarity he hadn't seen before. The lush village of Najamba was like one of his rare diamonds straight from the mine. He had so many hopes for it. The door was open when he arrived home. He kicked off his trail-dusted boots and ducked inside the thatched hut. "I smell something good," he said. Jala turned from the stove and smiled at him, then gestured him to sit. He dutifully sat at the small kitchen table and waited for the elderly Mendi woman with the twinkling dark eyes. He hadn't been sure if she would be here tonight since he had traveled for so long. But she was, and that made him supremely happy. "You always spoil me with your cooking," Ian said. Jala didn't speak a word of English, and unfortunately, Ian's Mendi accent and word usage was so terrible that she'd look at him as if he spoke gibberish. She could be correct for all he knew. Mendi did not come easily to him. Thankfully, the majority of Sierra Leone spoke English, but he tried for Jala, who still spoke only in her native language. Jala set a platter in front of him, heaped with rice and eggplant. A bowl of pepper soup accompanied it, and from the cutting board, he saw pineapple would be his dessert. "It looks wonderful." He touched the seat next to him. "Eat with me." She didn't sit down but smiled at him again, revealing 2 missing teeth, and patted his head as if he was no more than 4, which was always the age he felt around the maternal woman. While he employed her entire family, over 20 in all, Ian couldn't bear to watch her work. At some point, osteoporosis had taken over and she was limited. Since she refused to stop working, even if he paid her retirement, he asked what she'd be comfortable doing. Now he had excellent cooking to look forward to every breakfast and dinner. "Where is Manny?" Jala whistled and the tiny tan monkey poked his head out from a bowl on the counter. When Jala held her arm out, Manny jumped on and settled in the crook near her neck. She gave Ian one last pat on the head before leaving. Ian didn't waste any time digging into the meal. He was famished from his long walk. He had hoped to clear his mind on the dirt trail, but he only came up with more questions. One thing had become clear to him, however. His thoughts always returned to Gwen. Even though he'd promised himself to forget about her, it was as if she was infused in his soul. The only person suffering was himself. Even the villagers had moved on from the attacks much more quickly than he had from Gwen. Sadly, they were used to it. Living in Sierra Leone was bad enough, but operating a diamond mine was like living with a target on your back. Too often, the stones funded wars.
Ian!
Gerard called from the door. Gerard never knocked anymore since the last time he had broken the door. It wasn't really his fault. The door had been rotting from the inside. The amount of rainfall made an enemy of anything wooden. Come in. Gerard ducked into the hut armed with a pitcher of pollo.
It's fresh. Jala said I should come here with it.
How come she speaks to you but not me?
She said you speak like a mongoose.
I can speak 6 languages. How is it possible to completely butcher Mendy? Ian rose to retrieve 2 glasses and a plate from the cupboard. Care to join me? Gerard nodded.
You try too hard.
He took the glasses from Ian and generously poured the white pollo. After passing one to Ian, he took a large drink from his. While Gerard had settled in as if he were a local, Ian still had a few glitches. Snakes were one. Pollo was the second. The lightly fermented palm wine was something his taste buds hadn't acquired yet. But since it was the favorite at local canteens where men came to talk and debate, it was something Ian decided he'd learn to like. He took a sip, trying not to wince.
Still don't like it?
How is it you have a bare tolerance for Sierra Leone and yet you slip right in as if you were born here? And I love the place, yet I still jump when a snake slithers by.
You scream like a girl too.
Gerard grinned. Ian frowned but didn't comment. There were too many witnesses to side with Gerard.
Don't worry about it. I think my taste buds died in college.
Gerard shoveled rice onto his spoon.
Did you rethink selling your house?
Ian shook his head. I'm going to sell it. Jala and her family depended on him. What would they do without the income? It wasn't as if jobs were plentiful here. It will keep us in business for another year while I look for more land.
You don't have to look for more land. The diamonds are near us. The river to the east brings them down. What we need is access to the dried riverbed at the bend. I guarantee there are more.
Ian sat back in awe of his friend. Why are you here? Gerard raised a brow.
Because I'm hungry.
No, why are you helping me? Your talents are needed everywhere and others can pay you more. Heck, you can afford to buy your own land. Why stick with me?
Who else will save you from the snakes?
Gerard grinned. I'm serious. I value your help more than I can say. But why stay?
It's not always about you. I have my reasons.
Ian studied him. It wasn't as if Gerard was a closed book. If anything, Gerard shared too much. But Ian had a feeling Gerard was purposely not telling him something. So, instead of prying, Ian let the subject drop. I'll go to the riverbed tomorrow and take a look. A dark shadow darted through the room. Did you leave the door open? Ian asked, standing to retrieve his gun. Gerard looked up from his food.
Maybe.
There's something in here. Gerard gave a low whistle. Manny scurried over and jumped on Gerard's lap, then proceeded to help himself to the food.
He must have stayed behind for dinner.
Gerard patted him on the head with a gentle finger.
Smart little guy.
Ian sunk back into his chair, willing his heartbeat to regulate. Why wasn't he used to the wildlife yet? Especially Manny. The little monkey was as adorable as he was sneaky. Of course he'd stay for the food.
You look a little pale.
Gerard said to Ian. Manny leapt to the cutting board and eyed the pineapple. Gerard reached over for a chunk and handed it to the very happy monkey. I'm fine.
Still thinking of Gwen?
Always. No. I put her out of my head for good. I have to focus on the mine.
I'm glad to hear that.
Gerard stood, the chair scratching along the rough floor.
Should I take Manny with me?
Please. Gerard chuckled and walked to the door. He gave a short whistle for Manny to follow, but the little monkey remained, looking expectantly at Ian. "You're predictable," Ian muttered and grabbed some pineapple for Gerard to take with him. Manny followed the food, chattering happily.
By the way, it's good to have you back. When the rebels took you, I feared you were dead. We all did.
Ian nodded. It's good to be back. And he would lie, until it became the truth. Gerard tossed the chunk of pineapple up at Manny, who caught it and brought it to his mouth.
Good night, then.
Good night. Ian closed the door behind them and secured it. After a long walk and a full belly, bed called to him. While he might not be used to some animals at close range, he did love falling asleep to their night sounds. They were as crisp and clear as if every single creature was outside his window, singing him to sleep. He would finally have a good night's sleep. Tomorrow he would scout the riverbed, and hopefully all of his worries would be alleviated.